The galaxy's Grand Council was a place of power. Inside the shining chamber, hundreds of alien leaders gathered, their voices rising in pride and arrogance. Species from every corner of known space sat in rows that curved like a vast arena. Their ships ruled the stars, their fleets carried fire, and their laws shaped the weak dot at the center. A raised platform glowed with white light. This was where envoys came to speak. It was rare for a human to stand there. Humanity was small, ignored, and often mocked. The Council had long believed that Terrans were nothing more than noisy creatures from a fragile world, a world that had survived by luck, not by strength. On this day, the laughter was louder than usual. Alien rulers leaned back in their seats, their voices echoing across the chamber. Humans? They cannot even keep their colonies alive without aid. They have no fleets worth naming. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Why should we waste our time listening to their diplomat? Their mocking tones filled the chamber like a storm. Every word carried scorn. Every laugh was sharp and cruel. To them, humanity was a child among giants, a species that should bow and obey. But then the light shifted. The chamber doors opened. A human stepped forward. He was not armored. He carried no weapon. His figure was plain compared to the jeweled robes and scaled armor of alien rulers. His suit was dark, simple, and without ornament. His face was calm, unreadable. His eyes moved across the chamber with quiet steadiness, meeting the gazes of beings who had conquered half the galaxy. He walked with no fear. The Council grew quieter as he climbed the steps to the platform. Not silent yet, but quieter. Curiosity mixed with their scorn. They wanted to hear how the Terran would beg, how he would stumble under the weight of so many rulers staring down at him. Not at last, he reached the center. A platform's light embraced him. His voice carried through the vast hall. "Honored counselors," he began, his tone calm, his words plain. "You speak of humanity as if we are nothing. You laugh as if our presence is a joke. But you forget one truth." He paused. The silence grew deeper. "We are here." Simple words, softly spoken. Yet they struck harder than any weapon. The chamber shifted. The sound of laughter faltered. Some leaned forward. Others frowned. The diplomat did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Each word was sharp, cutting through the silence that spread like a tide. "You believe us weak. But weakness does not survive on our world. Earth is a place where storms kill without warning, where predators hunt in shadows, where fire, ice, and time itself test every life that rises. We were forged in struggle before we reached the stars. Do you think we came this far by accident?" A murmur rippled through the chamber. Council members exchanged uneasy glances. They had studied humans, yes, but they had never heard a human speak of their home like this, with pride, not shame. The diplomat's eyes narrowed. "You call us fragile, yet every step of our history is written in survival. We faced famine, and we endured. We faced war, and we endured. We faced death itself, and still we rose again. Can you say the same?" A hush fell deeper. Some rulers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others stared, unsure whether to laugh again or stay silent. The human's words felt heavy, as if something unseen filled the air. Still calm, he continued, "You measure us by your fleets and your empires, but you do not see us clearly. You see only numbers, weapons, ships. You do not see the one truth. That defines us." Again he paused. His silence forced them to wait, to listen. "The truth," he said softly, "is that humanity does not bow, not to worlds, not to storms, not to rulers." The words echoed in the chamber. They lingered, like thunder after lightning. Now the chamber was completely silent. "Not A single laugh, not a single whisper. The rulers who had mocked him minutes before found themselves without voices. Their scorn had dried in their throats. For the first time, the council hall, used to endless debate and shouting, was still. The human stood in the light, steady and unshaken, while hundreds of alien eyes stared at him. His presence seemed to grow larger, though he had not moved. His voice, simple and human, carried the weight of something the council had forgotten, the power of conviction. And in that silence, a realization spread across the chamber. They had underestimated him. They had underestimated his people. And in the quiet that followed, fear began to take root. The galaxy's greatest rulers, who had silenced countless worlds with fleets and fire, now sat silent themselves because of one human's words. Traveled faster than ships. The council session was meant to be private, sealed within the grand chamber where rulers argued and mocked. But silence, true silence, was impossible to hide. Every envoy, every aide, every translator, every guard had seen it. The moment when one human's words froze the galaxy's most powerful voices. By the time the human diplomat left the hall, whispers had already begun. They fell silent. Even the High Chancellor said nothing. A single human stood against them all. From the Council's core worlds to the farthest outposts, the story spread like fire through dry grass. In spaceports, traders repeated it over drinks. In barracks, soldiers muttered about it with unease. In palaces, rulers demanded reports. Some laughed at the rumor. Impossible, they said. No human could silence the council. They dismissed it as a Terran trick, an illusion meant to impress. But doubt gnawed at them. Others, however, believed, because silence in the council was unnatural. That chamber was built on endless noise, on arguments, shouts, and challenges. For it to fall quiet, even for a moment, meant something had shifted. Something important. Across empires, leaders called their advisors. They asked the same question, again and again. What do humans want? No one had the answer. In the trading hubs of the Vayari Dominion, merchants whispered that humanity was preparing to reveal secret weapons. They spoke boldly because they are not afraid. One trader hissed. Why are they not afraid? Because they hide something. A fleet, perhaps. A weapon we cannot see. In the military strongholds of the Zalok hierarchy, soldiers trained harder, their commanders restless. If one Terran diplomat can silence the council, a general growled, what will their armies do? We must prepare. In the shadowed courts of the Zarth Collective, spies were dispatched. Orders were clear. Dig into humanity's history. Search their archives. Find what makes them so bold. And on Earth itself, word of the council session returned. Home. The people did not hear the alien laughter. They did not see the scorn. They only heard of the silence, of how their diplomat had stood, calm and unshaken, against rulers who thought themselves gods. For the first time in generations, humans, across colonies and stations, felt something rare, pride. But not everyone celebrated. Some council members raged in private chambers. They slammed their claws, tentacles, or hands against stone and steel. How dare they speak to us that way? One shouted. They are nothing. They should kneel before us. This human arrogance must be punished. Their anger was born not from strength, but from fear. For deep in their hearts, they knew what silence meant. It meant the words had struck truth. As rumors spread, so did tension. Fleets began to move quietly. Patrols were doubled near Terran space. Scouts reported human ships training with unusual intensity. Even neutral empires, who rarely cared for conflict, began to watch. To them, humans were no longer background noise in the galaxy. They were a new variable, unpredictable, and dangerous. One diplomat's words had changed humanity's image overnight. No longer were they dismissed as fragile, as weak. They were now something far more dangerous. Uncertain dot in a dark chamber lit by floating crystals. The elder council of the Orzen gathered. Their voices were low, but their fear was clear. "Cannot allow humans to gain respect," one elder hissed. "If other species rally to them, the balance will break." "They have no fleets to match us," another replied. "But influence is as dangerous as fire. Words can unite as quickly as weapons destroy. So what is our path?" "Simple," said the eldest, his voice like stone grinding on stone. "We remind them of their place. We move ships toward their borders. If they resist, we crush them." The decision was made. Warships stirred in hidden docks. But they were not alone that other empires reached a different conclusion. Some rulers, shaken by the diplomats' calm defiance, began to wonder, what if humanity is worth listening to? Secret offers were sent, small alliances proposed, deals made in shadow. For the galaxy was vast, and many species longed for someone. Who could stand against the great powers? The humans, once ignored, had become a symbol. Back in the Grand Council, silence lingered even after the session ended. Alien rulers tried to resume debate, but their voices lacked force. The image of the humans standing in calm defiance haunted them. One voice had shaken the council. Now the galaxy waited to see what would follow. On a barren moon orbiting a dying star, a commander of the Koresh fleet watched his ships prepare for launch. His voice, cold and certain, echoed through the chamber. "Terrans think their words make them strong. We will show them strength is measured in fire." His fleet turned toward Terran colonies. Engines burned in the darkness, but far away, in the quiet halls of a human station orbiting Earth, the diplomat who had spoken stood alone, staring into the stars. He had seen the silence. He had felt it. He knew the galaxy would not forget. And he knew something else. The echo of his words was only beginning. The council's silence had ended, but the echo of the humans' words did not fade. Across the galaxy, rulers demanded answers. Why had so many leaders fallen quiet? Why had pride turned to unease? The answer, they believed, was hidden in humanities. Past spies were sent. Data thieves cracked into Terran archives. Entire teams of historians and intelligence officers were tasked with one mission: uncover what made humans so bold. What they found shocked them. At first, the spies laughed. Earth seemed ordinary, an average-sized world orbiting a yellow star. It had no exotic resources, no special orbit, no unique shield. A planet like thousands of others. But then they looked closer. The atmosphere was violent, storms that could tear cities apart. The seas shifted with colossal waves, swallowing coasts. Temperatures swung from burning deserts to frozen wastelands. Volcanoes cut open the land, spreading fire and ash across continents. "Impossible," whispered one researcher. "Life should not have survived here." Yet it had. Not just survived, thrived. Billions of humans lived on a world that seemed designed to kill them. And worse, they had not merely endured the planet, they had mastered it. They built cities on fault lines. They sailed across oceans filled with storms. They settled deserts, tundras, swamps, and mountains. "Everywhere we see death," a Zarth spy reported to her masters. "Humans see a challenge." But the archives revealed more. Wars. Endless wars. Empires rising and falling across centuries. Armies of humans battling not with starships, but with blades, arrows, and fire. Whole nations destroyed, rebuilt, and destroyed again. The records were filled with suffering and with survival. One Koresh general slammed the files shut. They fought wars that wiped out millions of their own kind, and still they returned stronger. Who does that? What kind of species survives their own extinction-level mistakes? Another voice, more fearful, whispered the answer. Deathworlders. The word spread quickly. Deathworlder. a species born not in peace, but in violence. People who thrived in danger. In the galactic archives, there were only a few such species known. Creatures from hostile worlds usually died out before reaching the stars. Those that survived were rare, unpredictable, and dangerous. And now the galaxy realized humans were one of them. In the shadows of the council's inner chambers, a meeting was held in secret. A high chancellor spoke first, his mandibles clicking nervously. They are Deathworlders. That explains their arrogance. Another replied, his voice low. Arrogance? No, it explains their confidence. The chamber grew uneasy. Some rulers feared the truth. Others refused to believe it. They are still weak, one counselor spat. Their fleets are small, their colonies scattered. But if they are Deathworlders, another countered, then weakness is only temporary. They will grow. And when they grow, they will fight differently than us. They will fight as survivors, not rulers. The words hung heavy in the chamber. Beyond the council, soldiers and officers studied the reports with growing unease. The Vayari. Dominion ran simulations of human warfare, only to watch in shock as Terran strategies drawn from centuries of brutal history defeated their fleets in every test. The Zalok generals ordered their troops to prepare for ground combat against humans. They soon discovered that human endurance running for days, surviving on little food, fighting in every terrain, outmatched their own soldiers. And still, humanity had not revealed its modern weapons. One admiral of the Orson Empire sent a warning to his superiors. Words silenced us, but their history will destroy us. If we force war, they will not fight for conquest, they will fight for survival. And Deathworlders who fight to survive do not stop. His message was ignored. Meanwhile, on Earth, leaders received reports of growing fleets near Terran borders. The diplomat who had spoken in the council stood in a quiet chamber, watching the tension rise. They are afraid, an aide whispered. Yes, the diplomat replied. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp, and fear makes them dangerous. He knew the truth now. The council would not forget his words. They would test humanity. They would provoke. And when they did, the galaxy would see what Deathworlders were truly capable of. On the far edge of space, in a hidden war council, alien commanders gathered. The Koresh general who had once laughed now spoke with grim certainty. They are Deathworlders. They will not kneel. If they are not stopped now, they will rise. His hand slammed down on the star map, marking Terran colonies. We move. We strike first, before their words turn into fire. Around him, other commanders nodded. Engines were prepared. Warships were fueled. The decision was made. But far across the stars, in quiet outposts and distant colonies, not all feared the Terrans. Some whispered with hope, if humans can stand against the Council, perhaps they can stand for us too. Perhaps we do not have to bow anymore. Seeds of rebellion began to stir. Empires that had long crushed weaker worlds now felt cracks forming. And at the center of it all stood humanity, unwanted, underestimated, but now impossible to ignore. The galaxy had asked, what makes humans so bold? Now they knew, and their fear of the answer would soon ignite the stars. The galaxy had heard the words. The galaxy had seen the silence. But silence did not last. In the cold void beyond Council space, the Koresh fleet moved. Warships like floating mountains glided through the stars, their hulls carved with symbols of conquest. Their commanders carried one goal: remind humanity of its place. On their maps glowed the target Atlas Station, a Terran colony at the edge of settled space. It was small compared to alien strongholds. A few mining outposts, scattered farms, and one orbital station with a thin defense line. To the Koresh, it was the perfect target. Strike fast, crush it, and show the galaxy that Terran arrogance meant nothing against true power. The order was given. Engines flared. The invasion began. On Atlas Station, the alarm screamed. Commander Elias Kane stood on the bridge, staring at the incoming signatures. His officers scrambled, voices tight with fear. 30 ships confirmed Koresh Warfleet. Intercept in 1 hour. Our defenses can't hold against that, sir. We have only 5 gunships, and the orbital cannon is still under repair. Civilian transports are requesting orders. Kane's jaw tightened. He had expected this. Ever since the council session, he knew the galaxy's great powers would not sit still. Humanity had stood tall with words, and now others wanted to see if those words had weight. Signal every civilian transport, Kane ordered. His voice was calm, steady. Begin evacuation protocols. Priority, families and medical. Wheel. Buy them time. The officers hesitated. Sir, buy them time? With what? Kane's eyes hardened. With us. The colony stirred with fear and urgency. Families rushed onto transports. Children clung to parents as evacuation crews guided them. Farmers abandoned fields. Miners sealed the shafts. The sky above darkened as the Koresh fleet drew closer, blocking starlight. On the bridge, reports came in one after another. Transports 1 through 4 launched. Civilians boarding Transport 5. Orbital defense cannon charging. But system is unstable. We might get one shot. Kane's hand clenched into a fist. One shot. That was all. Far out in space, the Koresh fleet slowed. Their admiral, a towering figure of armored scales, watched the Terran colony with cold amusement. This will be swift, he growled. We'll crush their defenses, burn their station, and take their survivors as tribute. His second-in-command hesitated. Admiral, reports say Terrans are Deathworlders. The admiral snarled. Words, nothing more. Deathworlders or not, they bleed like the rest. His order rang out. Advance, fire on the station. The first barrage hit Atlas Station. The shields flared and buckled under the force. Metal screamed. Lights flickered. A bridge shook violently as consoles sparked. Shields down to 40%. We can't take another direct hit. Commander Kane steadied himself. His eyes burned with defiance. Return. Fire. Focus on their lead ship. Make them feel us. The Terran gunships launched. Small, fast, and heavily armed for their size, they streaked through the void like hunting wolves. The Koresh laughed at the Sci-Fi small ships against a fleet of 30. But the laughter stopped when the first Terran missiles struck. Precision, accuracy, ruthless targeting. The Koresh flagship's shields shuddered under the impact. One gunship veered close, weaving through enemy fire, and launched a plasma torpedo that tore into a cruiser's flank. The Koresh admiral growled. Persistent vermin. Crush them. His fleet turned its guns on the Terran defenders. Inside Atlas Station, the orbital cannon's core hummed violently. Engineers shouted over the rising noise. Sir, it's unstable. If we fire now, the entire cannon might explode. We don't have a choice, Kane replied. He raised his hand. Target their flagship. The cannon roared. A beam of white. Fire tore through the void, striking the Koresh flagship dead center. Shields shattered. Metal peeled away. The great warship burned, splitting apart under the force. The explosion lit the stars. The bridge of Atlas Station erupted in cheers, but only for a moment. Multiple enemy ships breaking formation. They're regrouping for a second strike. Sir, transports are still launching. We need more time. Kane stared at the tactical map. He knew what was coming. The Koresh would not retreat. Not after losing their flagship. No, they would. Come with rage. And when they did, Atlas Station would not survive. Still, he stood tall. His voice rang out across the bridge, strong and steady. "Signal the enemy fleet," he ordered. The communications off. The council chamber remained quiet even after the Terran diplomat sat down. His words lingered in the air like thunder that refused to fade. The alien rulers looked at each other, some uneasy, some angry, but all of them thoughtful. For centuries, no species had dared to speak with such courage before the council. Empires fought wars, merchants made deals, but no one had ever stood up to the galaxy's most powerful leaders with only words. Yet here was a human, standing calm, as if the weight of the stars meant nothing. The council chair, an old alien with glittering eyes, finally spoke. "You speak boldly, Terran, but bold words often break when faced with power." The human diplomat did not flinch. He leaned forward slightly, his voice low but steady. "Power without restraint destroys itself. You mock humanity, yet you forget we come from a world that forged us in storms and fire. We did not learn survival from comfort. We learned it by clawing through death itself. And now, when the galaxy looks down on us, we will show you what that truly means." The hall stirred. Some rulers shifted uneasily, their claws tapping, their wings twitching. Others growled in defiance. Yet none interrupted. One alien general stood, scales glinting in the light. Empty threats. "Humanity has no fleet strong enough to face even one of our armadas. You sit here, hiding behind words, because you cannot match us in war." The human turned his gaze to the general, calm as ever. "Perhaps you are right," he said. "Perhaps humanity does not have the fleets you fear. But remember, the storms always start with silence. And once they rise, they cannot be stopped." The silence grew heavier, pressing on every corner of the chamber. The alien general slowly sat back down, eyes narrowed, but he said no more. Then it happened. A low hum echoed through the chamber walls. At first, it sounded like a vibration from distant engines. But then the council's private comms channels lit up. Emergency signals. Warning lights flashed across the chambers. Edges. The council chair frowned, turning to his aides. "What is this disturbance?" The aide's face paled. His voice shook as he read the report. "Council fleets are reporting unknown Terran ships on the borders. Massive in size. They were not detected before. They just appeared." The chamber erupted into chaos. Leaders shouted, some demanded explanations, others panicked. But the human diplomat only sat quietly, watching, his words now alive with meaning. The storm had begun. Cliffhanger. The alien rulers turned back to the human, realizing the truth Earth had not come to beg. It had come to warn. The council chamber remained heavy with silence long after Ambassador Holt's words. His voice had ended, but the echo of his message still lingered like thunder after a storm. Alien rulers shifted in their seats, some pretending to remain calm, others clearly unsettled. The humans had not threatened them with weapons, not yet. Instead, Holt's speech had left a deeper mark because it carried something even stronger than firepower. It carried conviction. For centuries, the great empires of the galaxy had measured power in fleets, armies, and resources. But this lone Terran diplomat had reminded them of something they had forgotten: resolve. Whispers finally broke the silence. "They cannot be serious," one counselor muttered. "Earth has no fleets large enough to challenge us." Another voice countered nervously. "And yet, why do I feel as though they might?" From his place at the center, Council Speaker Valen forced himself to rise. His golden robe swayed as he tried to restore authority. "The human seeks to frighten us," Valen declared. "Do not be fooled by their words. Earth is still a minor world." But even as he spoke, his eyes betrayed uncertainty. He had felt the weight in Holt's voice, too. The ambassador had not sounded like a desperate man bluffing. He had sounded like someone who knew. Holt returned to his seat, calm as ever, while his aides watched anxiously. Behind his eyes, however, he was calculating. Every pause, every shift of tone had been deliberate. Humans were new to the galactic stage, but they had studied their audience well. He had not come to beg. He had come to warn, and the warning had landed exactly where he wanted, inside the doubts of every alien ruler present not far above the Council's homeworld. Hidden in the dark of orbit, human ships waited. Not warships, not yet, but vessels carrying technology no alien race fully understood. The Terran delegation had made sure to arrive quietly, keeping their true strength cloaked. Back in the chamber, the silence was broken again, this time by a harsh laugh. It came from Admiral Kravith of the Vurian Dominion, a warrior whose fleets had burned dozens of colonies. "You speak bravely, human," Kravith said, his sharp teeth glinting under the lights. "But words do not win wars." "I could crush Earth with a single fleet." The council stirred. Some nodded, relieved by Kravith's bravado. Others glanced at Holt, curious to see if he would flinch, but the Terran diplomat did not. Instead, he leaned forward, his eyes locked on Kravith. "Admiral," Holt said quietly, "you could destroy cities. You could burn our soil. But in the ashes, you would find something you cannot erase." Kravith sneered. "And what is that?" Holt's reply was calm, but it carried across the chamber like a blade drawn in silence. "Our will to endure." The words struck harder than any shout could have. Kravith's grin faltered, and the chamber grew still once more. The alien rulers had heard stories, legends of humanity's stubborn survival on their deadly world, a planet that had shaped predators. In every corner, storms that shattered civilizations, diseases that erased entire cities. Yet somehow humans had endured. They had not merely survived. They had thrived. The chamber grew heavy again as that truth sank deeper. Valen attempted to regain control. "This is meaningless. Endurance does not conquer fleets." Holt's gaze shifted toward him. "Neither do fleets conquer what cannot be broken." The tension grew unbearable. Every alien present felt the shift in the air. The humans were no longer background players. They had stepped into the center of the stage, and they had done it with nothing more than words. Far from the council chamber, in a listening post orbiting a dying star, alien technicians watched their long-range sensors flicker. For weeks, faint readings had puzzled them. Now, the data sharpened, their voices trembled as they transmitted urgent messages. "Something is moving," one whispered. "Something vast, and it bears the Terran signature." But their warnings would arrive too late. Back in the chamber, a messenger rushed in, pale and breathless. He held a datapad high, interrupting the council's heated arguments. "Counselors," he cried, "long-range reports confirm. A massive Terran fleet has entered the outer sectors." Gasps rippled across the chamber. Valen froze. Kravith's grin vanished completely. And Holt? He simply sat still, watching their faces, his silence louder than any threat, because now every ruler in that hall knew the truth. The humans had not been bluffing.